This is George, and this is George's roadmap to success. George, you're such a good boy. Okay, so that little jump right there, that's an illustration of cortisol. It's a twitchiness. It amplifies everything and puts us in a position where we're in a heightened sense of awareness. That's helpful for us when we're in dangerous situations where we need to be able to take action. It is not good for us long term. He could very well be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, which is like police officers or people in the military who just have a really traumatic experience that they can't get that reprieve. We gave him reprieve. We let him go in the house and all that a couple times. But it takes about 3 days of being completely calm before the body can dissipate cortisol out of their blood. Okay, so let me summarize what we went over. We started off with going over a marker word. We started off with a tree trail, but I talked about that in the other video. So we start off with a marker word. So your marker, yes. Say yes in normal tone of voice. Don't say it overexcited, and don't hold on to your S's at the end. You say yes, then you put a treat in his mouth. This is a loading exercise. You're going to do this with about 12 to 15 treats, about 6 different occasions. And I would do a little bit of it outside here. I do both of it in, it's like 80% inside and a couple outside. So you're just gonna walk around, you're gonna say yes and put the treat in his mouth. Don't wait for him to come to it, and don't say it if he's across the room. So he's close to you, say yes, then we put the treat in his mouth.
And that's the him like following me around,
yes.
Right? Okay.
And this is a loading exercise. Now, yes, then I put the treat in his mouth, not yes as I put the treat in his mouth. They are separate actions,
okay,
but they're right next to each other. So yes, treat, take a couple steps, yes, treat, walk around your whole place so he knows this works in the bedroom, the living room, the basement. You should have seen the pool room that we were in earlier, but all around your apartment. And then towards the end, then you walk out here, yes, 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 and walk back outside. Okay, so that you do about 6 times. When you say yes and he looks up at you, then you're done. Now, I start off by saying 6 is the magic number, but it really depends on when he feels that and has that same energy. So once you're done with, or response, once you say yes and he looks at you, then you're done with loading it. Now you can go back to reload it if you need to, but usually don't need to. Now a marker word is an indicator that happens the instant the animal does the thing that you want, unless the thing that you want has duration, for example, potty or stay. In those situations, you say your marker at the conclusion of the activity. So the loading exercise is just so we can start using it. The marker is designed to tell him that he has done the thing that you want. So it comes the instant he does it. Now you can do this, I did remember something else I wanted to put in the other video, I'll talk about in a sec. But you can use it for, like, let's say that there's somebody that just walked by and he looked at them. If somebody walks by and he looks at them and he normally be reactive, say yes and give him a treat. Reward him interacting with dogs and with people. Whenever he interacts with people in a positive way, we often take that for granted. When he does that, mark and reward him so he understands that, yes, that's a good way to get attention. Something else I forgot to mention in the video above. If now it's LA, there aren't a lot of parks, but you could do this like in your alleyway. There might be areas, different parts of town you can do it. Licking and chewing release oxytocin and serotonin. Sometimes I will take a spoon with cream cheese. If I'm George, I can hold it from his mouth and have him watch somebody who's walking by, and I can move the spoon and he's licking it while he's watching the person. We're building that association. Now, if he reacts or barks, that person is too close. I lower the intensity for dogs by increasing the distance, slowing down the speed, or reducing the volume. So if he's having difficulty, ask yourself, which of those dynamics can I change to make it a little bit easier for him? Okay, so to use the marker word, we're going to use that when he does an activity that we like. So again, he looks at somebody without barking, yes. He comes to you, yes. This is what I call the celebrate game that we're transitioning into. Celebrating your dog is simply rewarding your dog when it offers you behaviors that you find desirable, like sit, come, down, drop, eye contact, go to the dog bed, when you don't ask for them. Just like little kids who do something nice to one of their friends, their mom says, that was nice of you sharing your game with Peter. That's a good attribute. We want to reward and encourage that. So basically, celebrating is just being mindful and watching him, and every time he does things that you want without you asking, you say yes and pet him. Now, if you ask him to do it, he does it, you should still say yes and pet him or give him a treat. Celebrating I usually do with pets only. When it's a higher stimulus environment or a more difficult thing, then I would use treats. When you say your marker word, yes, say it one time and don't say any other words for 5 seconds. Make it easy for him to know what word it is that we were talking about. And watch the video from that I'm going to share with you from Grisha, I think it's Grisha Stewart, or no, excuse me, Susan Garrett, because he's offered a couple of those. He's licked his lips, his ears, his eyes, all that fun stuff. That's cortisol right there. You saw that snapping in the head. We call that efficiency of movement. Okay, so so I'd like you to celebrate the things that he does that you like, and when you tell him to do things, you're going to use your marker word to take away the ambiguity, so he knows that he's done the things that you like, and actually start doing those behaviors more and more often. All right, we talked about, and that's the celebrate game. We also talked about potty training. The times of, well, he will not potty back here in the little courtyard area, and on walks, he marks a lot, so he doesn't really do an extended pee. Now, if you do catch him do an extended pee, I'd like you to do what's called a jackpot. In Texas, that means a bad situation. Dog training, that means a high reward. So if he does stop and crouch down and pees a long period of time, longer than like 4 seconds, 5 seconds, don't say anything until he gets done. But when he gets done, say yes once, then give him 5 treats in a row. So we call that a jackpot because we're giving him a high bonus reward to let him know what that action was is something I really like. Since you have difficulty getting him to pee, actual pee, instead of marking, when he does it, reward the heck out of him. So he's like, I don't remember what I did because I got a lot of treats and I want to do that again. Now remember, if he won't take a treat, it's probably an indication that he's too aroused. This is a mini treat pouch from PetSafe. I like using it because it can stay open, number one. I can close it. It's got a little wire thing. But it's got a pocket where I have treats here, but it's got a little special hidden pocket back here with Velcro, and I have the Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver there. While I'm on it, I'm going to hopefully link these in the write-up, but I'm going to put it in this video just so you know what they are. Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver is the what I call the crack. Tricky Trainers are the soft and chewy chicken liver flavored, the medium treats I was using. The ones we were throwing over there, we'll have to talk about in a minute. Charlie Bears, Charlie spelled with 2 E's. The snuffle mat I like is the Rundick, Rundick, I believe. It's gray. The picture has a golden retriever, and it's in a rectangular shape, and it has a band around it. So I flip it over each time. All the tassels go down, I flip it back, then I put the dry kibble and let it fall, and it goes into the crevices, and he has to work for his food. So feeding him out of a snuffle mat is like a short walk that you give him, and if we do that twice a day, that's a nice way for him to get some, burn some energy without being, with using his nose. We also went over cookie in the corner. That's throwing the treat there. I have a video for that if you forget how to do that one. Remember, when you're on walks, I want you to practice find it game once on every block and the U-turn. So if he's here and I'm walking down the street, there's nobody around, there's no reason to, I'm going to touch his treat to his nose. I'm going to say turn, then I'm going to walk around in a half circle. When we finish the half circle, take one step, then I say yes, and I release the treat, and we walk about 12 paces, and I repeat that, and then we're gonna go back the original direction we're at. So I want him to get used to every block we do 2 U-turns, so if you see somebody, you can turn yours and move away, and again, increase that distance for him without him doing it. Now, he's doing something right now under the chair, and he likes hanging out under things, which is fine. That's something that dogs do that are uncomfortable. But basically, he's grooming himself. It's been 3 hours and 12 minutes that I've been here in this session, and this is the first time he's done this. If we're about to get mugged, we don't care what our hair looks like. So if he is grooming himself, that's a good indication he feels comfortable. Remember, for a dog, the number of moves they have to put themselves into has a correlation to how comfortable they are. Standing, I go straight into a run. So sitting is 1 move, laying down is 2 moves, laying down on his side 3 moves like he is there. Yes, hey buddy. And so if he sits or lays down, that's a pretty good indication he's comfortable. Don't ask him to sit if it's a situation you think he doesn't like, but if you are practicing something like that, you want to see how close you can get. Ask him to sit. If he won't sit, then move 5 feet away, ask for a sit again. Keep on increasing by 5 feet until they actually do the sit. Let me see. Other forms of exercise, you can get a lick mat, get one with suction cups. Let me see. Fetch, he's not a fetching dog. So you can also get him a doggy backpack. It's for harness, make sure the harness has an extra Y shape in the front. But doggy backpacks are some, and don't get one that's over like $60. They have like REI, like end of the world one you don't need for the zombie apocalypse. But it has like saddle bags here. You could put bottles of water, bags of sand. If you're camping, you can carry some stuff. When I'm carrying a rucksack, it's harder work for me to walk. So if we put a little bit of that on him and then he goes for a walk, it's gonna help drain a little bit more energy from him. So basically, when it comes to exercise, when we're kind of talking about this, there's physical exercise, there's mental stimulation. Physical exercise, walking, playing fetch, playing tug, those are things that are fine to do. Mental stimulation is stuff that uses the nose or the brain. And so Cookie in the corner where I throw the treats on the ground, he had to go find them. That was a mental stimulation. Find an exercise on walks, same sort of thing. Dog training, now I'm using my brain. For training, keep these sessions to 3 minutes maximum, but like 1 to 2 minutes is really where you want to be, and you want to end on a positive. So last time he did it, he remembers it was something I like to do, not where you got frustrated because I wasn't performing very well anymore. We also went over my dog consent lesson, and I can link that above, but basically the long and short of it is remember to stop starting petting on top of his head. You can scratch him here and get up there, that's fine, but if you start here, they interpret that as dominance. You're going to be in a habit of doing that. When you catch yourself doing that, go like this, pull your hand back. Well, you can do, actually what I usually do, people go like this, just move your hand underneath. And then pet him once, and then pull your hand back, and then go back to underneath. This is to reset, so he understands you're doing it. When you pull back and redo it, you're reprogramming your brain to pet him. Now, he seemed to like at times under the chin and other times on his chest. Affirmation signals for dogs include the nose going up, licking you, leaning on you, or putting his paw on your arm if you're petting him in this way of saying, I like what you're doing, keep doing it. Cutoff signals for dogs include the ears rotating back, ducking the head, turning away, refusing to look at you, bracing as if I think I'm going to be hit, refusing to come to you, refusing to look at you, rolling over in their belly is a sign of submission. That's different, but in the same camp. So when he offers those things, that's his way of saying no or I disagree. So we want to stop doing those things when he sees that, and be mindful. You're probably going to notice there's things that you do with him or things that interact where he turns his head and says no. Now you're getting dialed into how to read him. And the more that you read him and fix or stop things, the more comfortable and confident he's going to be. That's going to help with his quality of life. Now, the Guardians put him on Prozac a couple weeks before I came here, and vets do not do this, and I should have done this probably at the beginning of the video. I like to have 3 tests when I'm putting it on, because Prozac takes 4 to 6 weeks to take effect. It's so subjective, it's hard to know if it's getting better. So it's not ethical to intentionally trigger a dog to be stressful, but something that happens on the regular, I don't mind activating that a couple times to calibrate. So what I do, and the Guardian's going to do this hopefully tonight, is just go knock at the door or have one of your neighbors knock at the door. Take note of the day and time and recreate it later on the same day and time so you have an honest metric. And basically they knock on the door a couple times and he starts barking, you start a timer as soon as they knock on the door. How long before he stops barking is indicator number 1. How long before he sits down on his own without us asking to, before he sits down? That's marker indication number 2. How long before he lays down? That's a pretty good indication of being completely relaxed. So what are those 3 numbers? I try to do those in the morning time, in the evening time, or midday, maybe on a weekend. So you want 3 or 4 different occurrences. And again, make sure there's no helicopters and other stuff that's going on at the time. So now you have, and do the average of those. After the dog's been on Prozac for 4 weeks, then I recreate that experiment and at the same days and the same times, and then I put the stopwatch on it. Are the times the same, or has they gotten better or worse? So a lot of dogs that are on Prozac, we need to up and down their dosage. He's been kind of doping, kind of out of it a little bit, which tells me that that cortisol is starting to kick in, or not the cortisol, the Prozac's starting to kick in. So I wish we would have done this sooner, but we want to do it tonight. At least we have a calibration and we should notice the difference. But basically, it's very normal to make adjustments, but the vet doesn't know because they're not seeing your dog and you don't know what it is. If you see that number is staying the same, you do it at 4 weeks, you do it at 5 weeks, you do it at 6 weeks, that numbers has not changed. You go talk to your vet, hey, I'm not seeing a difference. We need to change the dosage. He might up the dose, go to 20 milligrams, or he might do 10 milligrams in the morning and 10 milligrams in the evening. I'm not a vet. I don't. Pharmacology is not what I went to school for. So you have a great vet. Listen to your vet about it, but work with your vet and explain. I've done this, and tell your vet. Every client I've told this to, that they tell the vet, they're like, I'm stealing that, and they should. They should just do that by default. I should call whoever makes the Prozac and go over that with them. Okay, let me see, what else did we go over? I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We went over the importance of exercising every couple of hours, but a lot of it for him is he just is really making him feel comfortable. So if he's uncomfortable, you can pet him, you can give him a treat, you can free treat him, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to like have him bark and give him a treat, have him bark and give him a treat. After a while, the barking is what gets me a treat. But a lot of dogs like him, they are acting upon their emotions. They're not saying, I want to bark at David to be a jerk. David scares me. So I'm trying to get David to go away, and humans perceive that as aggression when it's actually not. And then there are these shysters. I didn't know that was a word for attorneys, but they're litigious. So if you're talking about it, he is reactive. Reactive is a non-judgmental term that doesn't say, yeah. And so, but just listen to your instincts, to your guts. What we'd like to see is essentially stacking good experiences on top of good experience on top of good experiences. The spoon thing I was mentioning, that might be something that you do if you could find an alley, which you kind of have here.
Back there too.
Okay, so you want like a path where people are walking by, and then you have a spoon. And oftentimes I'll freeze the spoon so it lasts longer with cream cheese on it. So again, he's looking at those people, and you're looking like I talked about earlier, but now you're creating that positive association. I guess the last thing we went over counter conditioning and desensitization for sounds. I have videos for that one. So if you remember, if you forget how to do that, message me. I share videos with you. But the most important thing with that, really with everything, is we don't push too far so that he reacts. What we want to do is like go knock at 10%, 15, 20, 25. Maybe we only get to 80%, and then we end, and he didn't do any barking. Then we come back, and then like when we may stop at 8%, next time I might start at like 70%. I always start a little threshold below to set ourselves up for success, and gradually move that up and down. Remember, it's not a linear process. It's going to be not a bell curve. It's going to go up and down. So he's going to have good days, bad days. And if you're having a bad day, give him a break. Now, I'm going to share the podcast with you from Susan Garrett on dog body language and consent, and she's going to go over a lot of cutoff signals. The book that I like in that video that she mentions, the first one, is something called Calming Signals for Dogs by an author named Turd Regas. And basically, she noticed that dogs do things to tell other dogs to calm down. We can use some of these to tell him to calm down or relax, or also you recognizing those can help. Now, last thing I guess I'll go over is body language. So he was stiff and still and wasn't taking treats. So stiff and still is not taking treats is illustration of cortisol, but stiff and still is not a normal body mechanic. Wiggly and jiggly is what I like to say for dogs. So if your dog goes from an open mouth to a closed mouth, stiff and still, and a stare, that's not a good thing. Staring directly, when we were inside and he was charging me, every time he charged me, he like froze, like slowing down, froze, stared at me, and then lunged. And so he didn't, he was just trying to get me to leave. But again, changing outside really helps with that. But if you see him getting stiff and still, we want to try to get him away. Now, one other thing that you're trying to do, but your sound is not the best sound. So you can make it's a very hard sound to make and to hear. So I like using a kissing sound like, or beep, 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 or puppy, puppy, puppy. So you would do a loading exercise like that. This is called a positive interrupter. We also went over hand targeting, and I'm going to share the video with you, and I combine that with positive interrupter lesson. So all attention for dogs is rewarding. So if he barks and you say no, you're telling him barking is a great way to get my attention after a lot of repetition. But if he barks at something and I say, and he looks at me and I go touch or boop, and he runs over and touches his nose with my hand, I'm asking him to do something different. I'm not giving him attention for the barking. I'm making an interesting sound that he chooses to look at me, then I'm asking him to do something different. This is what I do instead of saying no. So I would load it the same way. So not everybody can make the kissing sound. It's like you're trying to suck a shake through a straw that's over frozen. A long one, not, but. And what we do is make that sound, or beep, 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 or puppy, 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 and give him a treat and load it just the same way that I showed you for the yes. Do that separately, do that in a couple days, maybe do that on Sunday. Get to the point where if he makes that sound, he like looks up at you and it's a happy sound. Then you can say come, or sit, or down, or something else, and he runs away from whatever it is. If you need help on that one, let me know. I can share that video with you as well. And then for guests, I might give your guests some really high value treats. And if he comes towards your guest and he gets stiff and still, your guest could throw a treat away behind him, and he can go away and get that treat. So I'm seeing if he'll go get that treat now. He's just underneath the dog bed. The last little thing is he's got a dog bed that he sleeps in his guard. He closes the door. He's in there during the day. He can leave, but he chooses to stay in there. I would just stop locking the door at night. And so that way he can, there you go. That way he can have a little bit of time out on his own. And when you're asleep, the house is quiet. So that way he can kind of have a little time himself where he can wander around knowing that you're there. So I have you as my security blanket, but I can move around a little bit. And as long as he's not destroying anything, he's fine. Self-grooming, again, indication he feels comfortable. George. Well, this is my buddy George, and that's a good shake-off. She'll talk about that in the video, so I don't want to spoil that for him. But this is my buddy George, and this is George's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.